Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hall stepped forward with an announcement about Caitlyn Clark that left fans stunned and teammates frozen in disbelief. The kind of moment that hits you in the chest before your mind can even process the words. A raw and emotional reveal that has already set the internet on fire and sparked endless speculation about what's really happening inside this team. Sophie Cunningham was the first to break the silence, stepping forward in front of reporters and teammates with that unshakable game face she's known for. But this time there was something different in her eyes. Something that told everyone in the room that whatever was about to be said wasn't going to be just another routine update. Her voice steady, but carrying that edge you only hear when a player is holding back a flood of emotion, telling the room that what they were about to share wasn't easy, but it needed to be said. And before anyone could even guess, Lexi Hall, standing just to her side, reached for the mic and took over without missing a beat. Her tone softer, but equally serious, revealing that Caitlyn Clark would be stepping away from the court for the foreseeable future. Not because of a trade, not because of any feud, and not because of the league's politics, but due to what they described only as a personal matter. Refusing to offer any details and making it clear they wouldn't be answering follow-up questions, the air in the room so tense you could hear a pin drop as the reality set in that the Fever's biggest star was gone for reasons nobody could fully understand. And outside that room, the news exploded instantly across social media, with fans, analysts, and even rival players scrambling to figure out what could possibly be happening behind closed doors at such a critical moment in the season. The moment the words left Lexi Hall's mouth, the shock rippled far beyond the Fever's locker room, because within minutes, the announcement was everywhere. Twitter feeds lit up, Instagram comment sections flooded, and TikTok clips of the press conference hit millions of views before most people had even finished lunch. Fans dissecting every frame of Sophie's expression and Lexi's tone, convinced there was more being left unsaid, with some claiming they saw Sophie's lip tremble right before she handed over the mic, while others swore they heard Lexi's voice catch as she said Caitlyn's name. And in the middle of all that chaos, rumors began to swirl faster than the team's PR could keep up. Unverified whispers about a behind-the-scenes incident, private struggles, and even cryptic theories about something that happened during the Fever's last away trip. Each theory more dramatic than the last, all feeding into a storm of speculation that seemed impossible to contain. And yet, through it all, neither Sophie nor Lexi offered a single extra detail, shutting down questions with polite but firm response, making it clear they were protecting their teammate no matter what, a move that only fueled more curiosity as to what exactly had pushed Caitlyn Clark, one of the most competitive and visible players in the league, to step away at the peak of a season where every game mattered. Some fans now believe the signs were there all along, pointing to Caitlyn Clark's recent public appearances where her trademark energy seemed just a little dimmer. Her post-game smiles shorter, her interviews more guarded, and her usually sharp, confident answers replaced with quick, almost evasive responses. Especially when questions shifted away from basketball, and while at the time most chalked it up to exhaustion from the grueling WNBA schedule, a few diehard followers noticed subtle moments that, in hindsight, felt like red flags. A deep sigh before walking into the tunnel after a narrow win. A tense exchange caught on camera between Caitlyn and Sophie during practice that both quickly laughed off, and even a cryptic Instagram story she posted late at night with nothing but the words, "Focus on what mattered," over a black screen, which fans are now convinced was a clue about what was coming. And while it's impossible to say for sure whether those moments were connected to this sudden leave, the timeline has become a breeding ground for theories, each one adding fuel to the fire. Because if there's one thing the WNBA community thrives on, it's piecing together the hidden story behind every headline. And right now, all signs point to something much bigger brewing beneath the surface than anyone on the outside has been allowed to see. For anyone who's followed Sophie Cunningham's career, the gravity of her stepping up to deliver this kind of news can't be overstated. Because Sophie isn't just another teammate, she's built her entire reputation on being the loudest, fiercest, and most unapologetic defender of her team's star. The kind of player who will take a technical foul without blinking if it means sending a message to anyone who tries to mess with her squad. And when Caitlyn Clark joined the Fever, it was Sophie who immediately stepped into the role of enforcer, making it clear through both her words and her actions that anyone coming for Caitlyn on the court would have to go through her. A loyalty that earned her praise from fans and criticism from rivals, but cemented her as Caitlyn's closest on-court ally, which is why her voice shaking ever so slightly during this announcement carried so much weight. Because this wasn't a press-trained PR moment, it was a raw human reaction from someone who has spent the entire season putting her body on the line for the player she was now asking the world to respect and give space to. And if you rewind the past few weeks, you can see how hard Sophie has been fighting in ways that go beyond basketball. From publicly clapping back at critics who mocked Caitlyn's shooting slump, to calling out what she saw as unfair officiating targeting the root, showing up in matching warm-ups with Lexi Hall as a subtle show of unity before a tense home game. All of which makes her presence at the mic today feel less like a duty and more like a personal mission. The unspoken message clear: whatever Caitlyn is facing, Sophie is going to protect her from the noise, even if it means standing in the crossfire herself. If Sophie brought the fire to the announcement, Lexi Hall brought the quiet gravity that made it hit even harder. Because Lexi isn't the type to seek the spotlight, she's known for her precision on the court, her discipline in the locker room, and her tendency to let her game speak louder than her words. So when she stepped up beside Sophie and took the mic mid-sentence, it was the kind of move that made everyone instantly sit up straighter. Her tone calm but laced with that unmistakable tremor of someone holding back a wave of emotion. And for longtime Fever fans, that moment was even more telling, because Lexi and Caitlyn have been building a subtle but undeniable chemistry all season. The kind you notice in those quick glances after a big play, the extra high fives in practice, and the way Lexi always seemed to be one of the first to meet Caitlyn at half court after a game winner, which is why hearing her speak about Caitlyn stepping away felt less like a generic teammate statement and more like a personal loss, a shift that left an emotional hole for both the roster and the fans. And if you look back at recent weeks, you can see Lexi's role growing not just on the scoreboard but in the team's identity, her confidence on the three-point line, her smart defensive read, and her viral pregame fashion moments with Sophie that had social media buzzing, all point to a player stepping into a bigger spotlight. So for her to put all of that aside today and stand shoulder to shoulder with Sophie for this announcement says everything about where her priorities truly lie. Because at the end of the day, no matter the wins, losses, or personal accolades, Lexi made it clear protecting Caitlyn Clark comes before everything else. What made the announcement even more unsettling was Caitlyn Clark's complete silence, because in an era where athletes break news themselves on Instagram or Twitter before a team even drafts an official statement, Caitlyn's absence from every platform spoke louder than any post could, and it's not like she hasn't been active lately. Just a few weeks ago, she was clapping back at lighthearted teasing from Sophie about her lack of social media presence, posting her own behind-the-scenes glimpses from practice, and telling a reporter with a smirk that she prefers to focus on basketball, not likes. A line that seemed casual at the time, but now feels loaded with a double meaning, as if she'd been laying the groundwork for stepping away without inviting speculation. And when you layer that with her most recent interviews, you start to see a pattern. Her answers became shorter, her trademark enthusiasm just a little dimmer, and any question that edged toward her personal life was met with the kind of quick pivot you only see from someone who's guarding more than just the ball. All of which paints the picture of a player carrying something heavier than the stat sheet could ever show. And as Sophie and Lexi fielded question after question during the press conference, Caitlyn's empty seat felt like the unspoken centerpiece of the entire room, a silent reminder that whatever she's facing, it's serious enough to pull her away from the game she's built her life around. And that silence has now become the canvas for every theory, rumor, and inside source whisper flooding sports media. The impact of Caitlyn Clark stepping away goes far beyond one player missing from the lineup, because this isn't just any rookie. This is the centerpiece of the Fever's offense, the league's biggest draw, and the reason ticket sales and television ratings have been surging all season. So when news of her absence hit, it wasn't just fans reacting, it was the entire WNBA ecosystem, shifting in real time with rival teams immediately reassessing their game plans, media outlets scrambling to rewrite storylines, and league officials quietly worrying about how this could affect the playoff push and the momentum they've been riding since opening night. And inside the Fever's locker room, the ripple effect is just as real, because no matter how much Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hall step up as leaders, the truth is Caitlyn's presence changes everything from the way the defense rotates to the confidence her teammates play with and without her. The Fever faced a whole new set of challenges, both strategic and emotional, and while the public sees a united front, the pressure is building behind the scenes because every practice, every pre-game huddle, and every tough fourth-quarter possession from here on out will be shaped by the absence of their brightest star. And if that wasn't enough, the timing makes it even more brutal, coming just as the Fever had finally hit their stride, pulling off key wins that were shifting the narrative from rebuilding year to legit contenders. A storyline that now hangs in the balance, as fans, analysts, and even other players try to figure out if this team can weather the storm without the player they've been built around. And yet, in the middle of all this uncertainty, there's a strange sense of defiance coming from the Fever's core, because if you watch closely, Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hall aren't carrying themselves like a team in freefall. They're carrying themselves like players who are ready to fight harder than ever, showing up to practice with that extra edge, rallying the rest of the roster in ways that don't always make it onto the highlight reels, and making subtle but powerful gestures to keep Caitlyn's presence alive, even in her absence, from wearing her number on wristbands to posting throwback clips of her biggest plays, sending a clear message to both fans and critics that they're not giving up on her or the season. But as inspiring as that is, it doesn't erase the reality that the Fever's future now hinges on something no one outside their inner circle can control. And the secrecy surrounding Caitlyn's situation has only deepened the intrigue, leaving everyone wondering whether this is a short-term break, a season-ending setback, or the first sign of a bigger shift in her career. And the truth is, nobody knows. Not the analysts, not the fans, and certainly not the reporters, trying to break that, because the only people who can answer that are staying silent, and maybe that's exactly how they want it for now. What started as a sudden emotional announcement has now turned into one of the most talked about mysteries of the WNBA season, a story that's as much about loyalty, friendship, and protection as it is about basketball. And no matter what comes next, one thing is certain: Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hall have drawn a line in the sand, making it clear they'll stand by Caitlyn Clark through whatever storm she's facing, leaving the rest of us to wait, watch, and wonder just how different the league might look when she finally steps back onto the court.